Hi, this is me, Lori here. Tonight I'm going to be making a green split pea soup because usually I can be found in my kitchen cooking for my 4 kids and myself and my husband. Okay, so this is what they look like. This is green split peas. You may not have heard of it. I don't think it's a very common soup. But this is one that my mom used to cook from time to time when I was a kid, and I kind of like it. I kind of like it more than I'm an adult than I did when I was a kid. Something about the name pea does not sound very appetizing, but it's a healthy soup. It has lots of fiber and it's very affordable. So I'm going to start by cutting an onion in half. We're only going to need half an onion in this soup. I'm going to save the other half, and a lot of times I like to freeze my onions, so that's where this guy is going to be gone when I'm done. I started off trying to get the soup started 2 days ago by soaking my lentils. I just poured out about 3 cups I measured it out into a measure cup, and then I poured it into just any glass bowl that I had, my glass bowl here, and I filled it up with water to the top. And then the first day, at the end of the day, I dump out the water because it starts to get kind of murky. And the second day, you do the same thing. And then I'm really just doing it until I start to see the inside of it start to sprout a little bit. And let's see if I can find a piece. I always do this when I'm making my soups because it makes them easier to digest. There's a couple that have the little inside starting to come out, and you just can see at the top that it makes this little white thing comes out. And it's an actual sprout that comes out of the bean. Once that is sprouted. It's pretty cool. So it makes it easier to digest, and that's very important for bean soups because you don't want to be having a lot of gas burn in your soup. So I'm going to chop up this onion here. We're also going to chop up a few carrots and a few celery stalks, 2 cloves of garlic, and we're going to throw in some broth in with the beans once the veggies have sauteed down just a little bit. We're going to start out by throwing the onions and the garlic in together, and then we'll add to it from there. And as you see, I'm making this in my Instapot. I love my Instapot. I got an Instapot when my 4th child was pretty young. My sister had got one, and I heard about it, and I mean, the new Instapot sounds super weird. It's kind of intimidating thinking about how to use the thing. Like, how do you know when something's actually cooked? I love my Instapot so much. This is actually my 3rd Instapot because I had a small one. I used it so much that it broke, and then I bought another one, and then I realized, hey, I want a bigger size so I can actually have some leftovers. Do a double batch of my soup. So yeah, I love my Instapot. Why I love it is because I like to make a lot of soup, and it requires getting the vegetables nice and tender. Like, who wants a crunchy onion in their soup? So you have to cook a soup for quite a while to get your veggies tender. And also, I like to cook meats in my soups a lot of times, so like it's great to get a head start on chicken. I did do a video of how I cook a whole chicken in my Instapot, and I can take that and I shred it up and use it in my soups. Right after the chicken's done cooking, I'll just pop it into the fridge, separate it from the broth, and you can actually save the broth and put that up in your fridge. And then I always use at least half of that broth. If it's a big soup, I can use all of the broth up because, you know, chicken broth is expensive, so I like to do double duty with my broth, and also it's healthier if it's cooked inside the broth that you use that, so you get all that nice bone broth that it naturally has from cooking your chicken inside of your broth with the bones. So, and we know when you buy chicken that's on the bone that it's healthier, and more inexpensive than buying it boneless and skinless. So, and actually it has more flavor for a soup. So buy your chicken on the bones when you can, if you have time. Okay, my onion is almost chopped up here. Get this guy in the pan. My husband hates onions. He hates onion chunks. He's getting better about it now. We've been married over 20 years, and I gotta spray my pan first. Spray your pan with a little bit of oil. This is olive oil. Okay, he's getting better about onions the longer we've been married, but when we were first married, he could not stand any chunks of any onions or tomatoes in his food. And it drove me a little crazy. Because it takes a lot of time to chop onions. There goes my onion. Next, I'm gonna do the garlic. Now, to do a garlic, you just put it on your cutting board and you just hit it with your knife. Chef knife works best for that. Now, I love this brand of knife. This is Cutco. I've had this knife for like 13 years and it still is not dull. It's crazy. I noticed they have them at Costco, and I would love to get a whole set, but I just have this one and the serrated I have of Cutco. They are good knives. They were not kidding. Okay, so you just pop that skin off, and then I just chop it up with my knife because honestly, I've had garlic presses and they are like a pain in the butt to clean, and I hate. Okay, this is going off. I'm gonna turn it back on. I'm in saute mood right now. That's another reason I love the Instant Pot, is because you can saute whatever onions or garlic, even cook your meat. If you're making like a chili, or if you're doing like a meatball soup, you can cook your meatballs. You can saute them up in your Instant Pot. You don't have to dirty a whole nother pan because you want to have meat in there. So this is, I tell you, Instant Pots are awesome. We even took our Instant Pot camping when we went to Yosemite, and we heated up soup in our hotel room. This was during the COVID time, and we didn't want to eat in the restaurant, and a lot of places were closed because it was Thanksgiving. And that thing worked so great just to heat up soup in our hotel room. You could even make scrambled eggs in there if you needed to in the hotel room. And it just plugged right into the outlet. The thing was awesome. Okay. So there goes my onion. Or my garlic. I already have my onion in there. I'm going to be putting in some leftover ham in mine that we saved from Christmas. So we had a turkey that I cooked, and then we also cooked a ham. And my family's never eaten much ham, but I tell you, it makes very good leftovers when you do, because it's hard to eat that quantity of ham when your family isn't used to eating it that often. So I need a little utensil. Give that a little stir. You do not need an Instant Pot to make this soup. It will just cook faster if you were to use your Instant Pot, like twice as fast. So don't worry about that. In fact, I didn't have an Instant Pot for a while before I got it. I think I was cooking for, how many years? 20 years without it before I got one, but hey, it sure makes life easy when you're busy. Okay, I'm going to dump in some of my broth because my onions and my garlic are starting to brown. I don't want them to start to burn. And I'm using vegetable broth today. You can use chicken broth as well. This is just what I happen to buy. And I'm just going to do one for now. Oh, let's finish the carrots. And I'm just getting like kind of in half because they're kind of small carrots, so I'm just doing the top in half, and then I'm gonna just slice from there so they're a little bit smaller pieces. It's really fun when you start to get into soup cooking because there's so many different recipes that you can experiment with, and you can just, you know, try your own and see if you can come up with a concoction that you like as well. also had the green split peas with like potatoes. Sometimes my mom would add potatoes into like lentils or pea soup just to add a little bit more thickness to it. Okay, so there's the carrots. Let's cut off the yucky end of the celery. Split it down the middle. Slice it up. And this is a Samtuk style chef knife. I actually prefer this one over the typical chef knife. I've had the regular one in the past, and this one's a lot easier to get your tip down. Okay. Don't you just love having soup left over so you can like take it for lunch, or you can, if you make enough, you can do it for a second night's meal, and then you don't have to cook twice, which I find that is like so nice. And actually like have time to watch a TV show or something instead of being on your feet all night. And I love having soup with sourdough bread on the side because I like to make homemade sourdough bread, or I make biscuits with honey. Sometimes the kids want to put jam on the biscuits, and I also like to make cornbread, so I kind of like switch it up between those. And if we get bored with all of that, then we make quesadillas and do like corn or flour quesadillas on the side. So I'm gonna pour in my last container of broth, and we'll see how far this goes. I might have to stretch it by putting some water in, so we'll see where we get here. And then before it gets too full, I'm gonna pour in my split peas that have soaked for 2 days in. It's normal for them to have kind of a stinky flavor or smell as the beans sit in the water, but it just rinses off, so it's fine. You'll get that with any beans that you're soaking. It's amazing how hard the beans are that they dry at the grocery store because they've been sitting there for so long. So you just pour them in there, okay, and then we wash up, and I'll show you what we're looking like here. Okay, so this is it here, and then I'm just going to add some seasonings now at this point. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do my ham first. Oh well, usually I kind of like, so this is my frozen ham. That's okay, we'll just throw it in now. Has plenty of flavor, just the way it is. Usually you could like throw in the meat and kind of sear it up a little bit just to get those flavors going when you do the onions and garlic. That's okay. And then I'm gonna do a half a teaspoon of pepper should do it. Yeah. Okay, and then I have some freeze-dried parsley I'm gonna put in here for some more flavor. If you don't have it, just omit. Totally fine. I'm gonna do a half a teaspoon as well. If you have fresh you want to put in, that's fine. And this is about half a cup of ham, just for flavor. You could also do bacon that you've pre-cooked. Okay, and then I'm gonna give this a stir, and I'm gonna see how thick this is, and then we'll see like if we need to add more liquid, okay? All right. Yeah, it's pretty thick. So in order to hydrate the beans, I put some water here. So I'm gonna just pour in a big old thing of water just to bring it up a little bit. Okay, and I think that might do it. Maybe a little more. I think I'm gonna fill it up to the max here with water. So I filled to the max line. I do have the big Instapot. I did 3 cups of the split peas. Making sure my seal's inside of this. Definitely you could do 3 boxes of chicken broth in the big Instapot and no water. That way it would have more flavor. I'm gonna hit cancel. I'm gonna do pressure cook, and I'm gonna set this guy for 30 minutes just to make sure that these beans are nice and tender. I cooked it for 20 minutes the last time I made it, and they seemed like they needed just a little bit more time. Okay, I'll show you the soup when it's all done. Split pea soup is cooking. I'm going to make up some biscuits to go alongside. So you're going to start out by a stick of butter. I'm going to cut this up into cubes. This is salted butter. I have 2 cups of flour already in my bowl here. This is all purpose. And I've started trying to buy organic flour, so this is organic all purpose, because there's a lot of spray in unorganic products I've been hearing. So I'm trying to make a better effort of buying organic, and if you make it for yourself, it's easy to make that change. I got my flour at Costco. Okay, so I'm just gonna cube this butter up. This has to be very cold butter. That way it makes a flaky biscuit. Small little cubes. Okay, so your butter's gonna be like that. All right, and you're just gonna dump it into your flour. And then half a teaspoon of salt. Oh, put my salt away. Hold on just a moment. Okay, that'll do. Okay, and then you're going to take your hands and you're just going to break up these butter cubes a bit into the flour. You could also use a pastry tool to break this up. I don't have one of those. Just use your hands. Tiny little pea pieces. Also use your 3-year-old to do this for you if they have clean hands. Trust them. So we want a little pea size. This is just flour, butter, and salt in my bowl right now. Also, we're going to add in a tablespoon of baking powder. Give my hands a wash. If you don't have any baking powder on hand, I have tweaked my recipe to, instead of milk, use sourdough starter. Today I have baking powder, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it's going to be 1 tablespoon. Big guy. And then I have 3/4 cup of milk. This is whole milk. My oven is preheating to 450 degrees. And I like biscuits because they cook in only 10 minutes. Plus, they're delicious. So I'm just giving this guy a stir. Okay, get that milk incorporated there. Now, if it seems too wet, you can always add a little bit more flour. If it seems too dry, you can add a little more milk. So, probably get into it and find out what you got. You can also use the same recipe for biscuits and use it to make chicken and dumplings, and I use it all the time and do that. It's better if you do the one with the baking powder instead of the sourdough starter. It makes a lighter, fluffier dumpling. It's a little too dense with the sourdough starter in dumplings. Okay, that's a little bit wet. I'm gonna put a little flour onto my board before I roll it out. See what we get here. Just gonna dump this out here onto my floured board. That way it doesn't stick. We don't even put butter on our biscuits because they have enough butter inside of the recipe that you don't really need to top it off with more butter. Okay. So you just need it dry enough to be able to roll it out. So a little bit more. I must have been a little bit heavy on my milk. Okay. So that looks good. Some flour. And I love this wood rolling pin. I've had this forever. It just lasts and lasts. Do not leave them in the sink with your other dirty dishes. When you're done using it, give it a little wash and just wipe it off. And it will stay good for a long time. Okay, so you're just gonna roll this out probably about 1/2 inch. And then any cup you have in the cupboard will work. That's the size of your biscuits that you would like. If you want to make them cute, you can do shapes. Okay. Grab my cutter. Okay. I have to say, my kids are getting a little crazy upstairs and I hear them, so if they come down here yelling, we'll know what's going on. Okay, I'm gonna grab my pan. I think it's actually my 19-year-old and my 9-year-old upstairs. Okay, so I have my hot pan here. I preheated my stoneware, and I'm gonna see if I don't need to flour this. I'm gonna use this cup right here. It's perfect, perfectly round. And this stoneware is pre-seasoned. I've had this for a while. Otherwise, you can grease your pan if you think it's gonna stick. And I just go right in on the edges. Like that one's not perfect, but I don't care. Okay, we'll eat it anyways. And then we're all done cutting them. I'll take all the scraps and I make them back into a ball and I roll it back out. And we cut that up too because we don't want to waste anything. See the little bits of butter? Doesn't matter because that's going to be delicious once it cooks down. Don't worry about that. Okay. Let's hurry up before the crazy kids get down here, huh? Hear the 9-year-old yelling. I know they're playing, so it's okay. Good thing about having it upstairs is you don't hear quite as much as you would if it's a single story, huh? Okay. Almost done here. My oven has been preheated to 450. Let's see. I'll get one more right there. Alright. And I need to make them all fit on this. I don't want to cook 2 batches. Okay. Now, let's get the rest of these little pieces of dough. Let's move this out of the way. Get the rest of these little pieces of dough together. Let's see what I'm doing here. Just like when you're rolling out sugar cookies, you want to get all those little pieces. So you can just kind of re-smush them if you want. Give it another little roll. Also make this with buttermilk as well if you have buttermilk on hand, and those are super tasty. Okay, so super easy, super quick, and it has like 5 ingredients or so. What do you got? Flour, baking powder, salt, butter, and milk. And that's healthy. You don't have all those preservatives you get in the jarred things that you buy at the store. Okay, now I'm gonna pop my pan in the oven and let these puppies cook 10 minutes. All it takes to have a yummy side to your soup. Good time to clean up and do a little knitting while you're waiting for your soup. I'm working on a mussel burrow. If you haven't heard of the mussel burrow, you haven't been on YouTube. It's a great hot pattern. This is my third mussel burrow that I've made. See? I'm almost halfway through. Alrighty, I hear that timer of those biscuits. Let's see what's going on here. Ooh, those look yummy. Ooh, fogging up my delicious biscuits. Mmm. Okay, so my Instapot has just stopped. So I'm going to vent it. And I have a immersion blender. Okay, as soon as my Instapot will let me open it up, I'm going to use my immersion blender to blend it a little bit because it helps to like thicken it if you just kind of give it a little blend. Like it's spicy in there. Let's see. Oh, almost. Come on. Okay. Looking good. It's very hot, so be careful. Just a little bit. You don't want it too watery. And then let's see what we've got here. Looks good. And it does thicken like the next day. It's going to be even thicker than it is the first day, so keep that in mind. Those little bits of ham. Yummy. And there you have it. Delicious split pea soup.